Nobel Prize winner, scholar, national security expert, Dr. Henry Kissinger. His latest book, Leadership, 6 Studies in World Strategy. Dr. Kissinger, it's great to see you.
Good to be with you.
I want to talk about your book specifically, but I'd love to get your thoughts on the world today while we have you here. And specifically, what's happening in Ukraine and Russia. How do you see that tonight?
Russia has taken about 15% of the territory of Ukraine, and the line for the moment is militarily stabilized. And it looks a little bit like World War I type situation, in which both sides are spending part of the summer reinforcing their position. We have added advanced American weapons. The Russians are undoubtedly reinforcing their ground forces. So we may be seeing 2 offensives going on simultaneously. If Russia is defeated, there is a danger of escalation. But from any point of view of America, Russia cannot keep the territory it has conquered in this offensive without shaking the foundations of NATO. So it is a battle which we cannot afford to lose.
And how do you think it ends?
Well, right now, it looks like a stalemate, but that's because both sides seem to be rearming for the battle. But it will occur, I would think, no later than August. And then big decisions will have to be made.
Your book is called Leadership, and in it you say the axes of leadership. Leaders think and act at the intersection of 2 axes. The first, between the past and the future. The second, between the abiding values and aspirations of those they lead. And you've done 6 studies in world strategy where you look at different leaders and their different ways of dealing with this. Tell us about this book and the premise behind it.
I thought if I took 6 leaders that I've had an opportunity to observe and who made a big difference in their impact on their societies, it would be easier to understand what the essential component of leadership is, which is to move from the world that is familiar, this is the past and the present, into a world that one has not yet experienced. And for that, one needs vision and courage and some faith.
The leaders all deal in different ways in the studies: humility, will, equilibrium, transcendence, excellence, and conviction. Anwar Sadat, the strategy of transcendence. Anwar Sadat is best known for the peace treaty with Israel that he brought to Egypt. His ultimate design, however, was not a peace treaty, great though that achievement was, but a historic modification in Egypt's pattern of being and a new order in the Middle East as a contribution to peace in the world.
When he came to peacemaking, he went beyond the normal diplomatic discussions, and he tried to find principles that applied to all sides and that each of the countries could embrace. One of his symbolic gestures was a visit to Jerusalem, in which he visited a country that had not been recognized by any of the neighbors, and in which the neighbors were very reluctant to engage in any dialogue. And he went to Jerusalem and he said, I don't want to solve the following problems, and listed all the problems. He said, I want to get a new vision in which the 2 sides never think of each other as enemies, and in which no mothers have to worry about the future of their sons. That was a heroic gesture.
Last thing, Dr. Kissinger, if you had a piece of advice for President Biden now, looking at the world that he's looking at, and we're all looking at, what would it be?
Well, I'd say the world now is as fragmented as it has ever been. Every part of the world is in contact with every other part of the world. There are now means of communications that were inconceivable 30 years ago. And there are capabilities of weapons which make even nuclear weapons look outdated because they have married the scale of weapons to a certain automaticity in the use of these weapons, in which the weapons themselves can decide to some extent what the targets are. The problem of diplomacy and the problem of war has a dimension that has never existed before. So the great challenge is to be militarily secure, but also diplomatically so flexible that one recognizes the scope of what we are facing and visionary enough to put it forward.
Dr. Kissinger, thank you so much for your time. The book is called Leadership: 6 Studies in World Strategy. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for asking me. Good to see you.